16 hours before I was supposed to marry Tamsin Rowe, I opened the library door at her family's estate and saw what every man dreads. Tamsin, my fiancé, my future, was pressed up against a bookshelf kissing Ansel Mercer, like the world had disappeared. His hands were in her hair. Her hand was on his chest. She whispered, "I love you," and I swear my stomach dropped straight through the floorboards. My name's Corin Hale. I was 33. This was late January in Westchester. I was supposed to be at the rehearsal dinner. Instead, I was watching my wedding fall apart in a room full of first editions and lies. Maris Dunn was behind me. She's been my closest friend since college. Sharp, composed, no time for nonsense. Her boyfriend was Ansel. I heard her breath catch. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I stepped forward. Calm. How long? They broke apart, blinking like I'd just turned on a light. Tamsin opened her mouth. Ansel fumbled a step forward. "You're overreacting. It's not what it looks like. It was just a moment." I said it again. "How long?" Ansel started with some soft-spoken nonsense. Tamsin shrugged like she was brushing off dust. Eventually, they spit it out. 7 months. 7. Like a number printed on drywall delivery tickets, clean, simple, and totally gutting. While you're listening, share in the comments which country you're watching from. And let's continue. The room smelled like expensive cologne and old books. Tamsin's lipstick was smudged sideways. His shirt was buttoned wrong, one hole off. It's wild what your brain notices when your world's cracking. "I'm calling it off," I said. Just that. No yelling, no speech. You either stand your ground or you don't. And I wasn't starting a marriage in a house built on lies. Voices were getting louder outside. Guests arriving, staff setting up. I didn't hide anything. If they were willing to cheat in a family library, I was fine ending it in a family hallway. Tamsin tried her usual move. Soft voice, big eyes, hand reaching for mine. I stepped back. I've spent my life on job sites. You measure twice, you cut once. This was the cut. I looked at Maris. "You good?" She nodded once, white as drywall dust. We turned and walked out together past shelves of fiction and a future I didn't want anymore. Some days you wish you leave the mess where it lands and let the liars clean it up. The air snapped the second we stepped out. String quartet bleeding into silence. Shoes ticking over marble. That shift in noise right before everything breaks. Cressida was already there. She stood at the center of the corridor like she'd been expecting something to go wrong but didn't know which part would crack first. Her eyes did a slow scan. A me, Maris, Tamsin, Ansel? Her gaze stopped on the smear of lipstick and didn't move. I didn't wait. My voice came out level, loud enough for the whole hallway. "The wedding is off? Tamsin's been dating with Ansel for 7 months. No dramatics, just the bones." People froze mid-step. Heads turned. I saw an aunt drop her clutch. A groomsman whispered something and backed toward the stairs like he wanted no part of it. Cressida didn't react at first, but I watched her shift. She clocked the details. Lipstick out of place, Ansel's collar askew, Maris looking ready to throw up, and something behind her eyes hardened. Ansel stepped forward, palms out, fake calm voice. "Look, feelings are complicated." Maris didn't let him finish. "How many times?" she asked, steady and sharp. Ansel looked at the parquet floor like it could save him. "I lost count," he said, voice small. That cracked the crowd. One of Tamsin's cousins let out a laugh. Someone whispered, "Unbelievable." My parents hit the top of the landing right then. My mom's face was thunder. Ion Hale doesn't tolerate public spectacle unless she's hosting it. She looked like she wanted to drag me out by the collar. My dad, Lyle, didn't say a word. Just looked straight at Tamsin like he'd just uncovered black mold behind a new backsplash. Cressida turned toward her daughter, voice like clipped shears. "You will apologize. You will not spin. You will not blame Corin." For a woman who treats silence like a second skin, it was practically a scream. I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, two bridesmaids pulling out their phones, already recording. I didn't stop them. Let the daylight in. The more receipts, the fewer excuses later. Tamsin tried her old card. Wide eyes, soft tone. Corin, wait. I shook my head once. That door was sealed. I turned to the planner. Call the vendors. Cancel everything. I'll cover my side. Cressida nodded. I'll handle ours. Cold. Professional. And for the first time in 4 years of knowing her, we were on the same page. One of my uncles, Chester, stepped forward and shook my hand. Sorry you came all this way, I said. He gripped my shoulder. Better cost now than cost forever. He was right. That's what people forget. Sometimes walking out saves more than staying in ever could. We walked past velvet chairs and designer heels, past all the whispers and the money. I didn't look back. When the front door clicked shut behind me, it didn't feel like a door at all. It felt like a lock sliding into place. The door clicked behind us like it had sealed something shut for good. That night, we didn't go back to anyone's house. We found a bland airport hotel with beige walls, 2 queen beds, and a view of a loading dock. No one spoke much. My folks sat on either side of me in the tiny breakfast area, drinking bad coffee and not trying to fix anything. They just showed up. That was enough. At dawn, I drove back to my apartment, unlocked the door, and started boxing Tamsin's stuff. 13 cartons, all taped, labeled, and stacked outside. No drama, just motion. Maris helped me, quiet, steady like always. She didn't ask questions. She just folded sweaters, packed shoes, and passed me the Sharpie. By early afternoon, I called the building manager, paid $340 to swap the locks. I handed over the old keys like they were a version of myself I didn't need back. Pride stung a little, but not as much as the idea of her walking in like nothing had happened. Tamsin called from 3 different numbers that day, then 4. Left a voicemail pretending like we could talk this out. When that didn't land, she sent a photo of us from 2 summers ago. Some wedding in Maine, me in a blue tie, her in that burnt orange dress. I stared at it for 2 seconds before deleting it. Changed my number by dinner. Anyone who needed me got the new one. She didn't. Monday morning, I showed up at the bureau. Edric Voss, my boss, called me into his office without even looking at the clock. Old school guy, steel ruler type, no tolerance for sloppy. He gave me this long stare like he was trying to measure if I was going to crack. You fit to work? He asked. Yeah, I said. He nodded once. Then do the work. And don't let this make you sloppy. After that, I went straight to the lobby desk and asked to speak to Hector Mendez, head of security for the whole complex, former police, sharp haircut, center mass posture. I told him the basics. My ex might try something performative. I didn't want the atrium turning into a soap opera. He didn't blink, asked for a photo, took notes, said he'd flag her badge and tag her account for accompanied release only. That was his phrasing, professional and firm. I appreciated that. We didn't need drama, we needed systems. That night, I sat on my stoop with Maris. It was cold enough to see our breath. She looked drained, shoulders low, eyes distant. I didn't see it, she said finally. Neither did I told her. And I build things for a living. We laughed once, just once, no humor in it. She said a friend from City Hall tipped her off about travel logs from the foundation. Tamsin's outreach schedule lined up a little too neatly with Ansel's fake consults. I didn't react. I wasn't chasing revenge. I wanted the truth where it belonged. Around midnight, my mom called. Eat real food, she said. Call your father about the tax documents. That was her version of love. I said, yes, ma, and meant it. Then I slept for 4 hours, not great sleep, but enough to feel the shift. Like a beam right after a load transfer, lighter but still watching for cracks. 2 days later, mid-Tuesday, Hector texted me one word. Heads up. I was on the mezzanine heading back from a meeting. I stepped to the railing and looked down at the lobby. There she was. Tamsin strutted in like it was a press shoot. Heels sharp, bouquet bigger than some centerpieces. and a guy with a guitar trailing her like background music on demand. She wore her public face, all polished teeth and warmth for the cameras, like she hadn't scorched the floor a few days ago. The guitarist launched into a song I recognized from some donor gala last spring. Light acoustic, lyrics about second chances. People slowed their steps. Phones came out. The spectacle had begun. Hector moved fast. Two guards flanked him, already in position at the turnstiles. He didn't shout, but his voice carried. Ms. Rowe, you're on escorted release only. No performance, no public display. Tamsin's whole posture shifted. Sweet smile gone. She turned stiff, narrowed her eyes. This is a misunderstanding. Hector didn't flinch. We're not misunderstanding each other. He stepped in and guided the guitarist, still mid-song, straight toward the glass doors. The poor guy kept strumming until the last second, like someone had hired him to keep playing no matter what. Tamsin turned to the front desk and tried to hand over the bouquet. Big lilies, long stems, some imported nonsense that probably cost $300. There's a card, she said. It's for Corin. Hector shook his head once. He can accept it in person or not at all. I didn't move, didn't blink. The desk clerk glanced at me, unsure. I gave nothing back. The crowd didn't cheer or gasp. They just watched. That quiet shuffle of people realizing a line had been drawn and held. Tamsin left without the flowers. Guitarist at her side, head down, pace fast. Her eyes were glassy but not wet. Just heat. She didn't look back. I took the bouquet downstairs to the community foundation office, walked straight in, and set it on the counter. New auction item, I said. Label it under City and Kids Trades Scholarship Fund. We wrote the auction plate like you write a site incident report, factual, dry, clear, date, time, building. Intercepted at lobby by security after repeated requests for no contact. Timeline of behavior. No adjectives, no embellishment, just a cold, hard outline of decisions and consequences. At the gala that Friday, the bouquet pulled $1,650. 4 scholarships, 3 at $400, 1 at $450. Not roses on my kitchen table. Tools in the hands of kids who wanted to build something real. The following week, I shared the auction plate at our internal lunch and learn. Presented it like a boundary case study. How to de-escalate, when to document, and what it looks like when you hold the line in public space. Edric didn't clap. He never claps. But afterward he said, "Bureau stays a bureau. Good." That was his version of a standing ovation. After Edric's quiet approval, things didn't cool down. They just shifted lanes. Maris put her planner hat on and started digging. City procurement logs are public if you know where to look. Dry PDFs, endless tables. But numbers tell stories if you line them up right. She called me one evening and said, "You might want to sit down for this." I was already sitting at my kitchen table with a yellow pad. "Go ahead," I said. She read off dates tied to cultural outreach travel from Tamsin's foundation. Same weekends, I'd been told she was staying with her godmother in Charleston. Same weekends, Ansel claimed he had private consults out of town. Funny how Charleston, Savannah, and Chicago kept repeating like a chorus. Maris didn't speculate. She just lined up columns. Travel reimbursements, grant disbursements, event costs, clean rows. Then Lowell Brandt stepped in. He owned the gallery Ansel worked out of. Old school art guy. Expensive glasses, careful voice. Maris reached out to him with one direct question about overlapping dates. He replied the next morning and copied me. "Reputation is currency," he wrote. "I'm done being used." He sent reimbursement emails from Ansel, hotel invoices labeled client hospitality, dinners coded as donor cultivation, a handful of work hour submissions that overlapped neatly with those same trips. It wasn't dramatic, it was sloppy. I felt a steady kind of anger reading it. Not loud, just solid. We didn't rant, we didn't post screenshots, we built a packet, dates, totals, categories. Maris drafted a cover letter on city letterhead requesting clarification regarding public-private grant compliance. The wording was clinical. Please reconcile reported travel and time entries with procurement filings, it said. No accusations, just a request. She copied the foundation's compliance officer and the deputy comptroller's office. When I asked why that specific phrasing mattered, she said, that language triggers a response window. They can't ignore it without creating another paper trail. Lowell sent a similar packet to his board and several museum donors who funded restoration work. He copied me again and added one line, for your awareness. 10 days later, my phone rang twice from numbers I didn't recognize. One compliance officer confirmed Tamsin had been placed on administrative leave pending review. An HR contact I'd worked with years ago texted me privately. Termination likely for falsified time entries. Ansel reached out to Maris through a mutual friend. Said he'd received an official censure from the Conservation Guild. 2 high-end clients pulled their projects. In that world, if your hours aren't clean, you're done. Tamsin's foundation released a soft statement about policy refresh and staff training. Polished language, no names, no admissions. Translation: they found enough smoke to take action, but not enough courage to hold a public fire. I never posted the documents online. I never blasted social media. I didn't need strangers cheering for me. I wanted the numbers to land where the money came from. Public funds deserved clean accounting. When the calls stopped and the statements were issued, I closed the folder on my desk and slid it into a drawer. The math had landed. I turned off my desk lamp and went back to work. A week after the auction, a cream envelope landed on my desk at work. Heavy paper. My name typed clean. On the back flap, Cressida Row, engraved like it belonged on museum glass. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I opened it with a letter opener I usually used for contractor bids. She wrote the way she curated events. Tight, precise, no wasted space. The first line hit clean. This was not the first time Tamsin had left a man mid-engagement for someone inside their social circle. Different name, same script, she wrote. I leaned back in my chair and kept reading. She attached printed screenshots of emails from years earlier. An engagement before me. Same pattern. A borrowed lake house upstate. Another man handed a spare key. A stretch of weekends labeled as time to think. Then a quiet collapse and a story about personal growth. My jaw tightened. I hadn't known any of that. Halfway down the second page, there it was. Keys to the lake house issued to Ansel Mercer on a temporary basis last September. That explained the artist retreats, the vague stories. The nights she'd come home smelling like wood smoke and lake air, talking about inspiration and donor strategy. I had nodded like an idiot, proud of her work ethic. Cressida didn't hide from it. I undervalued constancy, she wrote. I rewarded spectacle. That was my mistake with my daughter. For a woman who treated admissions like stains on silk, that was real. She also admitted she had reversed a save-the-date rollout once before and quietly compensated a family to keep it out of the society columns. I will not repeat that error, she added. Toward the end, she mentioned Tamsin had called her furious, claiming I had weaponized security and humiliated her publicly. Cressida's reply was printed there, one short line. No, you did that to yourself. I read the letter twice. Not because I needed proof, but because I needed clarity. There's a difference. The question that had been humming under my ribs since the library finally lost power. Why wasn't I enough? That question assumes the pattern starts with you. It didn't. I drove out to my parents' place that Sunday and handed my dad the letter. He read it slow, glasses low on his nose. Some folks repeat a pattern until it breaks them, he said, folding it back up. Or someone breaks the pattern. I nodded. I'm not volunteering for that job. He gave a small grunt that passed for approval. That night back at my apartment, I stood at the window looking over the streetlights and traffic. The city kept moving like it always did. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel rage. I felt slack, in the line I'd been pulling tight since the library. I folded the letter, slid it into my desk drawer, and closed it for good. The drawer clicked shut, and that same night I reopened my laptop and pulled up the fellowship email that had been sitting untouched since January. ETH Zurich, Digital Construction Research, 1 year. I had read it a dozen times before and told myself the timing wasn't right. Now timing wasn't the excuse. I clicked accept in February, booked flights for March, and told Edric I'd return with new tools instead of new scars. He nodded once. Bring back something useful. Zurich was cold, clean, and efficient in a way that made sense to me. The work hit my brain right where it needed to. Parametric models, adaptive reuse, old facades stitched to smart cores, mornings in the lab running simulations, afternoons in the field walking through sites where centuries-old stone met steel joints you could adjust with software. It felt honest. If something didn't align, the model showed you. No guessing. The relocation program at ETH required therapy sessions. I almost rolled my eyes when I read that, but I showed up anyway. Dr. Anya Keller didn't waste time. First session, she looked straight at me and asked, "Are you running from something or toward something?" "Both," I said. It sounded like a hedge. She didn't blink. "We'll sort which is which." We talked about composure. She said I treated it like a virtue badge when sometimes it was just a mask. I told her I handle pressure well. She asked why I believed pressure proved I belonged somewhere. "You build structures that carry load," she said during one session. "What load do you carry that isn't yours?" That question rode with me on the tram home. I watched strangers stare at their phones and thought about how easy it was to shoulder weight nobody assigned to you. On weekends, I crossed the river and volunteered at a trade school. I helped apprentices read structural drawings, showed them how to break down field math without panicking. No speeches, no posts, just hands-on plans, pencils moving. One kid named Lucas squinted at a section detail and said, "Why does this beam look wrong?" "Because it is," I told him. "Trust the math before you trust the ego of whoever drew it." He grinned and recalculated. Late summer, Maris flew out to visit. We walked along the lake, clean water, mountains in the distance. She looked lighter. "I moved apartments," she told me. "New block, new start. I'm finally sleeping." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it more than I let on. We didn't talk about Tamsin or Ansel much. We talked about zoning fights and transit plans and how cities either grow with intention or collapse under shortcuts. Same rules everywhere. The city and Kids Foundation emailed me photos of the 4 scholarship winners. 2 carpenters, 1 bricklayer, 1 stonemason. Boots on their feet, new tools in their hands. I saved the pictures in a folder on my phone labeled Build. Somewhere between lab reviews and therapy sessions, I realized I didn't miss Tamsin. I missed the illusion of a clean plan. The timeline, the house sketches, the assumed future. Dr. Keller said something that stuck hard. Plans aren't promises, they're models. Models update. I stopped arguing with that idea. I started adjusting instead. When winter rolled in and the lake turned gray, I stood on the bridge after class one evening and deleted the last old photo I had kept out of habit. Then I put my phone back in my pocket and headed to the lab for the next review. Back in New York that fall on a short trip, I walked into a wood-paneled room 3 floors up from a subway vent and pitched the Landmarks Preservation Commission on a retrofit for a block near Delancey. Keep the brick. Make the bones smarter. That was the hook. I showed them the parametric shell overlays, walked through impact on drainage, and flagged load transfer options to avoid unnecessary gut jobs. One of the commissioners asked if we were pursuing city co-funding. I nodded. Then accountability matters, I said. No shade, just structure. Across town, Ansel was hosting an opening for a downtown restoration he'd just wrapped. Polished stone, lighting cues, and carefully worded bios with donor nods. Maris had texted me the flyer that morning. Just the image and a raised eyebrow emoji. During Q&A at my session, someone asked about lime mortar. I answered, then paused and added something I hadn't rehearsed. "For the record, I said, public funds and private benefits need clean lines. We all know why. I didn't name him. I didn't need to. The room shifted anyway, just a notch. Enough. There was a local arts blogger filming in the back. Later, she posted the clip with the caption, "A message some folks need to hear louder." Then she walked straight to Ansel's event and put a mic in his face. Any comment on overlaps between client hours and donor-funded travel? He froze, tried that soft laugh thing he does when caught off script, then said, "You know how artists are with calendars." Light chuckle. Wrong crowd. It didn't land. By dinner, the clip had made the rounds. Quiet but steady. Lowell Brandt sent me the link. His email was one word: sunlight. I wrote back, "Good for the paint, too." The following week, the commission circulated a short internal memo. Updated disclosure rules for mixed funding projects. Nothing flashy, no press release, just clean language that forced cleaner lines. Maris got a message from Ansel not long after. Long, rambling, half apology, half wounded narrative. She forwarded it to me. I read it once, then deleted it. "Gonna answer?" I asked her. "No," she said. "He already knows." And he did. We weren't trying to ruin him. That wasn't the goal. The goal was making sure the scaffolding didn't collapse. The one that holds up our whole tight little circle. Preservation, planning, grants, galleries. People like to pretend the small favors don't count, but they do, especially when they pile up and tip the frame. I left the chamber that day with my bag over my shoulder and my badge still clipped to my belt. The security guard held the door open as I walked out. "Clean work," he said. I nodded. That's the goal. I landed at JFK with a beat-up suitcase, a scar on my right knuckle from a sight slip in Lucerne, and a better spine than I'd left with. Mine, not just the building's. By the time I walked into the bureau, Edric had already pulled up my file. He called me into his office before lunch, nodded once, then handed me a paper folder without sitting down. "You're heading reconstruction," he said. "Adaptive reuse and recovery jobs. We need somebody who can say no when a no is needed." I didn't hesitate. I shook his hand. My first team meeting ran like a framing day. Tools laid out, roles assigned, safety clear. I added boundaries and backups as a standing agenda item. Not for show. We'd all seen what happens when assumptions sneak past checklists. That week, Hector asked if I'd speak at a complex-wide security workshop. I kept it tight. 5-minute debrief, warning, documentation, escort, redirect, then straight back to job site updates. The following Monday, I got an envelope I wasn't supposed to get. No return address. Inside was a copy of the final HR determination from the foundation. Termination for cause, repayment plan enacted. Clean font, legal phrasing, no sentiment. I read it once, then fed it through the shredder in my office. That part wasn't mine to carry anymore. 2 days later, a card arrived on plain ivory stock with no crest. Just a short line in Cressida's script. "I heard about the scholarships. Thank you for making something useful out of it." I slid that one into the drawer beside the first letter and didn't touch it again. Maris called me that Friday. "Got tapped for deputy lead on the Clinton revitalization pilot," she said. "Long hours, big scope, I want it." "You should take it," I told her. "It's your kind of build." We celebrated with tacos from a truck and lukewarm coffee on a bench outside the pilot zone. She looked tired, but it was a good tired, the kind that comes from doing your own work on your own terms. My parents came by the office the following week. My mom hugged Hector like she'd known him 20 years. My dad walked the hall slowly, hand grazing the exposed brick, nodding like he was visiting old friends. At a Friday brown bag, one of the interns asked me for career advice. I didn't prep a speech. I just said the two things I wish someone had told me at 25. "Watch how people handle your no," I told him, "and write down what you'll never outsource: sleep, friends, and your name." He wrote it on a Post-it and stuck it to the inside of his laptop. I left the office just after 6 that night. badge in one pocket, tool bag in the other. Walked home through soft rain and the smell of street pretzels. When I got inside, I turned off my phone, dropped my bag, and stood in the doorway of my apartment for a full minute. It was quiet, clean, and for once I didn't feel like something was missing. I'm older now, telling you this clean. Back then, I thought keeping my cool meant I was in control. Turns out, I was just quiet. There's a difference. The receipt from that intercepted bouquet, $1,650 raised for scholarships, sits framed on my shelf. Boots and chisels came from that stunt. It's not a trophy, it's a reminder. Nonsense can be converted into tools if you stay steady long enough. I don't check on Tamsin or Ansel. I don't Google. I don't ask. I don't care where their roads bent after mine split off. I don't need their endings to make mine work. They got what they earned in private or in full view, and I'm not part of the balance sheet. The letter from Cressida stays tucked in the back of a drawer I don't open unless I need grounding. Not because I'm holding on. Because when that old question creeps in, why wasn't I enough? I have paper proof it didn't start with me. Dr. Keller's voice still shows up sometimes when a plan gets tight or a room goes quiet. Update the model, she said. It sounded cold the first time. Now it makes sense. If the plan doesn't work, I don't bend myself to make it fit. I change the plan. People ask how you recover from getting humiliated 24 hours before vows. The answer's not sexy. You get up, you box the belongings, you change the locks. You speak the truth once, clear, not cruel, and you let time cure over it like concrete. Doesn't matter if it sets ugly. It still holds. Some revenge is loud. Mine wasn't. Mine was the quiet kind. Making sure the lobby stayed a lobby, the money got tracked, and 4 kids got a shot at real work instead of real drama. That was enough for me. I took the Zurich year, did the therapy, showed up, came back in one piece, not harder, just steadier. I stopped treating composure like a armor and started treating it like structure. Something you can walk into and breathe. If a young guy ever asked what to look out for, I'd keep it simple. If someone treats your life like a stage, pull the curtain before they set the lights. If they treat it like a job site, hand them a hard hat and watch what they do next. That's it. That's the story. Not a movie, not a myth. Just a man who saw what he needed to see, cut the bad line clean, and built something steadier out of the spare parts. What would you have done in my place? Hit hype, tap like, subscribe, and leave a comment so we can talk it through.